Hey everyone, how are you today? I hope you are doing well. Welcome to You Still Matter, a show about seniors and those who love them. On this episode, I am going to be talking about advocating for yourself. All right. So, probably about two episodes or so ago, I interviewed Dr. Verna Simmons, and my question was, why is the question posed, have you fallen lately? Why is that question posed generally every time a senior goes to the doctor? And I couldn't really understand why. So I just kind of wanted to know. And she explained it. And if you didn't have an opportunity to see that episode, I'll make sure I post it below. But she did, she explained it. And I mentioned to her that it was just really amazing to me how I was always asked that question and I couldn't understand it. And my answer was always, no, I haven't until I failed. And so I really left it at that when I was speaking with her because I wanted her to be able to have enough time to cover all the information that she had planned to cover. And I knew that with me elaborating on what happened to me when I fell was just going to take up too much time during that time that I had allotted for her. But I am going to share this quick story with you. So it was one evening, I was tired and I decided to take an early shower. So I did. I was in the shower and I have um, a handheld shower device where you can just kind of spin it and turn it to whatever stream that you want. You know, whether it's a mild stream or a forceful stream or just whatever you want. So I was turning it and turning it. And it seemed a little difficult for me to turn. I thought, well, maybe because I was so tired or something, I was feeling weak. So I really turned it hard. And then the unthinkable happened. The metal piece actually went into my finger. I mean, it really pierced my finger. That blood just started coming out. And I thought, oh man, really? So I got out of the shower and I put on a compress on my finger. I just kind of wrapped it and I said, oh, it should be okay. Well, it kept bleeding and bleeding. So it bled all the way through the compress that I had on my finger. So I said, okay. So I removed that one, threw it away. I rewrapped it again with another compress. It kept bleeding and bleeding. And so I took that one and I just kind of threw it away. And I said, well, let me just rewrap it and, hold it a little tighter or something. Well, I did that for a couple minutes or so and it kept bleeding and bleeding. So I could not stop the bleeding. So I said, let me just reach out to one of the urgent care places. So I called urgent care and they told me that they had an appointment at 8 p.m. that was available. I said, okay, great, I'll take that. So I gave them my name and so on and so forth. Well, as I left out of my house, and this was during probably mid-fall, and during that time of the year, it gets darker earlier, right? And so I left. It was about 7:25 because I wanted to make sure I gave myself ample time, to get there and to be prompt for my appointment. Well, I closed the door behind me as I walked out of the house, went down the step, and then boom, yes, I fell. I fell on my right side on the concrete steps, and I have about four concrete steps outside of my door. I absolutely could not believe it happened. And I am in so much pain. I just could not. I was trying to really get my bearings straight because trying to figure out how it happened, I still don't know to this day. I had to have slipped on something. And of course, it was dark. And I'm just trying to gather myself. I'm thinking, Donna, you've got to you got to get it together. You've got to get up from here. And so I'm just trying to maneuver and get up. And finally, after probably 3 or 4 minutes, I was able to get up and get to my car and be on the way. And I'm thinking to myself, first, I'm shocked that it happened, and I'm upset and I'm hurting and all of that. And so I did think of this. I said, wow, God, I guess the positive message from this was I already have this urgent care appointment. Okay. So, I kind of felt better with that. Well, I arrive at the urgent care center. I'm in the parking lot, and it's a good thing I keep a walking stick in the back of my car when I need it because oftentimes I'll have issues with my knees and my hips, having, osteoarthritis in both. So sometimes I have to be able to have some kind of stability when I'm walking, right? So it takes me just a few minutes to get out of my car, and then I'm able to, maneuver myself to the front door. And so I walk in and I sign in, and they said, okay, well, we'll be with you shortly. I said, okay. So I may have sat there 5 minutes. It wasn't too bad at all. And so they came and got me, and the nurse said, she said, well, what happened to my finger? Because she saw it wrapped. And of course, that's what my appointment was for. And I told her what happened, and she said, okay, okay. And I told her, I said, ironically enough, I fell as I was on my way here to this appointment. And and she saw how I was walking when I walked in. And I told her, I said, my right side of my body is very, very sore right now. And she said, okay. And so she took my blood pressure and then she said, well, the doctor will be in shortly. And I said, okay. And so sure enough, the doctor came in probably about 3 minutes. So it wasn't bad at all. So she came in and she asked about my finger, and I told her what happened. And so she said, well, she said, since it was metal that went through your finger, you will probably have to have one of the tetanus shots. And she said, and you may have to have stitches. I don't know yet. And I said, okay. And so I told her, I said, well, I said, on the way, I said, I actually fell on concrete steps on my right side as well. And I said, I'm going to really need you to look at that. And she said, well, did you fall um, before you came here or after you came here or what? And I told her, I said, when I left out of my door. And she said, oh, okay. She said, well, but your appointment was for your finger. And so only thing I can actually do is look at your finger and treat your finger today. You'll have to come back tomorrow, make an appointment and come back tomorrow to look at anything else. I looked at her like, what? She said, well, your appointment was for your finger, and you'll have to make, for me to look at anything else, you'll have to make a second appointment. I said, listen, this is an urgent care facility, correct? And she said, yes. I said, my entire right side of my body, I'm in a lot of pain right now. And as you can see, my knee is bleeding. Now, I had on denims, and we know that blue jeans are a, rather thick material. And you could see the blood was coming through the blue jeans. Okay. So she said, well, you would have to make another appointment. I said, no, ma'am. Absolutely no, ma'am. I'm going to really need you to look at, you know, to see what else is going on. And she said, well, I'll be right back. So she left out of the exam room for about 3 minutes. And then she came back in and she said, here, put on these shorts, those little hospital shorts that they give you. So I had to change into those. And she said, I can treat your knee and I can, wrap your knee, but then you'll have to go to your doctor. You have to follow up with your doctor for everything else. I said, okay, all right. So she cleaned up my knee and bandaged it up. And so I'm still kind of shocked because I'm at an urgent care facility and I'm not being provided with the urgent care that I actually need. But anyway, she took care of my finger and reluctantly bandaged up my knee. And so, after a while, I was gone. All right. So I know I was looking at her too with like deer in headlights, how they look at you, they stop. But sharing this story, I just want to make sure that the story that I really get across is to make sure that you advocate for yourself in these kind of situations. Now, I hope you don't go through anything like this. But if you do, make sure that you advocate for yourself. Now, I did follow up with my doctor the next day, and I did explain to her what happened. And she asked me again, she said, what did you say? She said, what? And I told her that she wanted me to make another appointment to come back. She didn't want to look at anything else. So she couldn't believe it. And anybody else that I shared this story with, they couldn't believe it either. So it wasn't just me, right? In denial or anything. So anyway, I did when I had the appointment with my doctor, she wanted me to go and have some x-rays on the right side of my body. Well, it's a good thing because the x-rays actually showed that um, there was a piece of bone on my hip, my right side, that was chipped. And I'm like, okay. But this was just such an interesting experience. But listen, let me say this. Do you think that I called the urgent care facility back the next day? Yes, I did. Not to make another appointment, but to speak with the office manager. And I did speak with him and I shared with him what happened and what she said. And he seemed a little shocked himself, but he said, "Thank you so much for, letting me know and I'll get to the bottom of it." Well, after speaking with him, probably an hour and a half later, the doctor had called me and left a voicemail stating, "This is Dr. So and so, and I just wanted to check to make sure you were doing okay." And I'm thinking, okay. But anyway, that was just such an enlightening experience. And I was determined that I was not going to leave and come back the next day when I had an urgent situation. So please, 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 please make sure that you advocate for yourself. Now, she could have told someone else that. Perhaps they would have said, well, okay, I'll just, after all, I did come in for my finger. I made the appointment. So, all of that just to say, please be sure, no matter what, to advocate for yourself. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like, share. If someone came to mind that you would really like to see this video so they can hear this story, please share it with them, okay? And feel free, please, to subscribe, hit that button, all right? And certainly, you feel free to share any comments that you may have as well. If something similar happened to you, or just some way that you had to advocate for yourself, feel free to share that below, all right? Again, thank you so very much for tuning in to this episode. Take care, God bless, and I will see you on the next episode. But remember, no matter who you are, no matter your age or how you're feeling, always remember that you still matter. All right? Thanks again for tuning in. Take care. God bless. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.